This is a picture of a young Elvis in front of his home at Graceland. I fell in love when I visited the Country Music Hall of Fame. When I was probably about 19 years old, I learned a lot about Elvis and just grew in love with him and his music and his performance, and I am just a huge Elvis fan. So my dad took me to Graceland last year with my husband. That was one of my top trips. It was a trip of a lifetime, and I really hope I get to go back, hopefully soon. A little history, just a small history, on Elvis before Graceland. Elvis was born on January 8th, 1935, in a little two-bedroom house in Tupelo, Mississippi. His parents were Vernon and Gladys Presley. Elvis also had a twin brother that died at birth, and his name was Jesse. Elvis started his music career at Sun Studios in 1954. He then had his contract sold to RCA a year later. In 1957, Elvis bought Graceland. He moved his parents in. He married Priscilla. They lived there. They had Lisa Marie, and Elvis died in his home on August 16, 1977. Here's a picture of Elvis in front of the gates at Graceland. Graceland was opened to the public in 1982 and became a historical landmark in 2006. When you walk through the front gates in Graceland, at Elvis's house you can see his front living room with this really long, pretty white couch. And then my favorite part about this room was the peacock stained glass that separated the room with the TV and the piano from that front living room. If you look to the left, you see Elvis's dining room, and then you go straight ahead, you can actually see Gladys and Vernon's bedroom because they lived with Elvis. You can also walk straight up the stairs, and it was where Elvis's bedroom was, but there's a really pretty blue velvet drape that's covering it, so maybe one day we'll get to see it. You can walk through Elvis's kitchen to downstairs, where Elvis had this living room with a bar and it had 3 TVs. My favorite part about the room was the lightning bolt, TCB, taking care of business. Elvis also had this really pretty, very different billiard room. On the walls and the ceiling, they were covered with drapes all along it. It was different, and it really made the billiard room stand out. The famous jungle room, that was as soon as you walk up the stairs where you get the best look at the jungle room, where Elvis had animal fur-covered couches and chairs. He also had a famous waterfall in there. The jungle room really was something. Besides the house, you can visit Vernon and Elvis's offices. You can visit the trophy and racquetball room where you can see Elvis's awards and his different outfits. Also, you have Elvis's pool, his custom cars, and you can actually see his custom jets and walk through them. My all-time favorite part about the whole experience of Graceland was the meditation garden, where Elvis is buried with his mom and his dad and his grandma, Minnie Mae. And as soon as you walk up to the meditation garden, you can see a small memory marker of his brother, Jesse. Very special place, and I got very emotional there. Besides Graceland, you have to stay at the Heartbreak Hotel. Here's a picture of my husband in the lobby waiting to check in. And you have to visit the famous Sun Studios, where the famous picture of the $1 Million Quartet was taken. Elvis Presley, Johnny Cash, Carl Perkins, and Jerry Lee Lewis. Besides what's in Memphis, you also have to travel to Tupelo, Mississippi, and actually see Elvis's birth home. When I was in Graceland, I found this quote that was very suiting to the king. I doubt very much if the Beatles would have happened if it was not for Elvis. God bless you, Elvis. And that's from Paul McCartney, one of the Beatles. And I agree with this quote. Elvis, he set a path for rock and roll music, and he's the king of rock and roll, and I love him very much. Who doesn't love Elvis?